Talk about this and answer some questions. Our local Republican Congressman Kevin McCarthy, and of course Majority Whip in the House. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Let's talk about this debt and the downgrade of the credit on Thursday. The S&P came out and downgraded it below AAA, and then promptly the market dropped 630 points on Friday. S&P took a direct shot at Washington, and I quote from their president today, and part of what he said, what we see is a less than effective political process. Not just the president, not just Republicans and Democrats, the whole process. What do you think? Now,
legitimate argument there, but our forefathers created a program or a constitution that allows debate about philosophy. S&P also said, had we passed the budget that the Republicans had put out, they never would have downgraded us. You've got to think of where we're coming. This downgrade isn't just about the debt limit. It's about the 40 years. It's about the Great Society. It's about in the last 3 years we increased, government did, increase spending 84%. They added a new entitlement when the other entitlements are going broke. They added a stimulus of $1 trillion. You're borrowing 40 cents out of every dollar. The last 2 years, there's never been a budget in Congress, even though you had a $1.5 trillion deficit. So who didn't was coming? It is a wake-up call for this country, and Republicans and Democrats alike have got to solve the problem. And you can't sugarcoat it. We have a fiscal problem. We've got to be honest with the American public, and we've got to make changes.
But pushing it to the 11th hour may have had some impact.
Well, all the credit rating agencies said if you passed the August 2nd, they would have all downgraded us. And that would have been a terrible situation. But the one thing I would say, Republicans passed 2 plans weeks in advance. The president never even laid out a plan. The Congressional Budget Office, which scores, meaning how much a plan costs, for the first time said, I cannot score a speech. You cannot sit and just tweet and not lead. You have to have a plan out there. The Democrats in the Senate never produced a plan. So yeah, there is frustration on all ends. But if you look from the House perspective, they did pass 2 plans. That S&P said, had the first plan we passed, they never would have downgraded.
Well, 2 plans that were pretty much dead on arrival, though.
Why were they dead on arrival? S&P said they wouldn't downgrade because of political natures, because the president sat there and said he only wanted something based upon his reelection. Well, that's wrong. You've got to stop worrying about politics and start worrying about this country and start worrying about the policy.
Okay, but from a voter standpoint and citizens, he said that very thing yesterday, pointing obviously to Republicans when he made his statement. Stop worrying about politics and let's get a deal done. You say
know what?
That. He says that. The voters go, well, somebody get something done.
I've sat in a room right next to the Oval Office with this president. I said, I will walk out publicly and I will talk about entitlement reform together. You bring up your idea, I'll bring up my idea, and I will never demonize you. He said, oh yeah, good idea, and won't do it. Look, this country is in the same place we were back in 1979 and 1980. Either this is going to be the mark of the great American comeback or the long fade into history. We've got to make tough decisions. I'm one that believes the best days are still in front of us. But the idea that you're going to have no plan and not lead and let us keep borrowing 40 cents out of every dollar will not work. So I'm not afraid to fight for what I believe in. And if S&P thinks that wrong, then that goes against the Constitution. We're supposed to have ideas. We're supposed to have philosophical debates. And I think we'll be stronger and better for it.
Well, speaking of debates, there's obviously a lot of local voter frustration as well. You had a town hall meeting a couple of years back about health care reform. Would you entertain the idea of having one of those during your vacation now?
I do town hall meetings all the time. The one thing that I have been doing, I've been doing teletown halls. Because one thing you found, you had 3,000 people turn out, and people would make political statements instead of it. Teletown halls, I'm able to go into their households, and they're able to, I find they ask me even tougher questions because you don't know who they are. And I do those all the time, but I do town halls during the breaks. I had someone just call the other day. I set them up every chance I get.
So, all right, you guys are on.
I think it's healthy. People should be held accountable. Government should be held accountable. And we're not going to get out of this problem by ourselves. We have to grow this economy. We have to create jobs. You can't just cut your way out of it.
All right, you're on recess for 4 or 5 weeks. We'll see how it plays out when you guys go back.
All right.
All right, thanks for being with us.